There is a snippet from a Jerome Corsi clip that caught my attention.
Hillary and Obama have been the greatest gun runners in American history.
From what I know, that looks like a form of deflection away from people Corsi is associated with. People Corsi alludes to helping get Trump into office.
About 3 years ago, a group of generals came to me, and it was explained to me they were ready to conduct a coup d'etat. They're ready to move Barack Obama from office with military force. And then a few weeks later, I got another call and said that they were reconsidering. You know why they were reconsidering?
No, why?
Because they talked to Donald Trump. And Trump agreed that he would run. And they agreed that if he would run, they would conduct their coup d'etat as a legitimate process, rooting out the traitors within government. And that pact between the military and Donald Trump has held. As we've been interpreting and watching, and Alex has been following QAnon, QAnon is military intelligence and close to Trump.
One of the people that Corsi is referring to is retired Major General Paul E. Vallely, who was calling for a coup against Obama. I made a video covering his involvement in military psychological operations, the development of mind war, and a pro-Trump propaganda disinformation psychological operation known as QAnon. Corsi was a key promoter of QAnon, alongside a disgraced Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, another key piece of this network. The retired general's plan for a coup was also mentioned by litigious gadfly and self-identified Messianic Jew Larry Klayman on none other than the Alex Jones Show.
You know, maybe Obama's pushing to the point to maybe someday they will wage a coup in this country. I'm not advocating that, but I know that some of these retired generals and admirals have talked about it. I know that. It's been in the public domain because Obama, and I'll say it straight up because no one else will, you will, Obama is a Muslim through and through. Obama sympathizes with a Muslim caliphate. Obama sympathizes with the mullahs in Tehran. He sympathizes with the radicals in the Far East, and that's why he never holds any of them accountable. He doesn't sympathize with Christians and Jews. He sympathizes with his own people.
Without outright mentioning the Iran deal, a reference to Obama being sympathetic to the Iranians is clearly a reference to it. We can start to see how the whole inspiration of this planned coup and the plan to help Trump get into office was a reaction to the Iran deal. Getting back to Corsi accusing Hillary Clinton and Obama of being the greatest gun runners, it reminded me of the most famous gun running operation ever exposed, Iran-Contra. It just so happens that this very network has extensive ties to not only Iran-Contra, but the arming and training of death squads and junta forces throughout Central America, not to mention the CIA drug trafficking Barry Seal was involved with.
Our first story tonight concerns more information on the connection between the Contras in Central America, the United States government, and cocaine. When we first reported that connection 3 months ago, we told you that the White House and the CIA had used known drug traffickers to arm the Contras. The guns were brought down to the Contras, and the drugs were brought back to the United States. The CIA called our story scandalous defamatory journalism at its worst. The current congressional hearings investigating the Iran-Contra scandal have not dealt with these drug charges, even though many of those accused of drug trafficking worked for Oliver North in the network he set up to supply the Contras. But now there's another committee, just across Capitol Hill, that's taking the drug connection much more seriously. The Senate Foreign Relations Committee has recently started its own hearings behind closed doors. One of the operations that committee will likely look into is the subject of our report tonight. It's an operation that raises disturbing questions about how the American government kept the Contras supplied with guns and money when it was illegal to do so, and who the American government tapped to do the dirty work. The operation involves an obscure little shrimp company that has a strange relationship with the State Department, the CIA, and the men who worked for Oliver North.
What we have here is the disgraced retired Lieutenant Colonel of the US Marine Corps, Oliver North, alongside retired Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin.
First of all, I want you to understand that my children are Jewish. Just by Jewish law, my children are Jewish because their mother is Jewish. So I have a deep passion for Israel.
It just so happens that Boykin's Delta Force were also extensively involved in Central America, fighting the Salvadorian revolutionary group, Farabunde Morti National Liberation Front, and assisting the Central Intelligence Agency funded Contras in Nicaragua. Meanwhile, North was a national security staff member during the Iran-Contra affair, which he played a key role in. North used a National Endowment for the Preservation of Liberty, NEPL, which was a shell company set up with religious right financier Nelson Bunker Hunt of the Hunt dynasty and support for the Contras fighting the Sandinista government. This assistance was sought because an earlier attempt to rescue the hostages, carried out by Delta Force called Operation Eagle Claw, disastrously failed. The funds came from weapon sales North claimed partial responsibility for, including the sale of 2,000 anti-tank missiles through Israel to Iran, in exchange for Iranian assistance in freeing American hostages. Boykin was part of the failed mission, describing it as the biggest disappointment of his professional career because he didn't bring home 53 Americans. Despite this, his faith was strengthened, believing he had witnessed a miracle. Quote, "Not one man who stood with us in the desert and pleaded for God to go with us was killed or even injured that night," unquote. Needless to say, this event profoundly impacted Boykin's evangelical faith and may also be the genesis of his personal holy war against Islam, inspired by his hatred of the Islamic Republic, and led him to become a prolific Islamophobe and supporter of Israel, other than the obvious. So I've essentially uncovered an amazing revelation. If Boykin's Delta Force mission had been successful, the weapon sales Oliver North admitted to be partially responsible for wouldn't have happened, and there probably wouldn't have been an Iran-Contra. Also, we might not have found out as much as we have about covert operations in Central America and all of the gun running. That is quite amazing. Thank you for watching. This has been John Swin. It's at JON_SWINN on X. The website is exposetheenemy.com, all one word. Also, please join the YouTube channel to support my work. Thanks to the 4 people that do so. Take care and have a great day.